Hello, friends. It's Nancy from Astrology and Angel Mediums today with another weekly check-in for the week of July. I don't even know the dates. July 8th. No, July 7th through July 13th, I believe. I may correct those dates just to make sure. So from Sunday through Saturday. So next Saturday. All right. Let's see what we have in store for this week. I'm going to be using the weekly check-in spread that I've been using in the previous videos. So let's see what we have. All right, so what do we need to know for this week? We have the Page of Swords. All right, what do we need to know? Or sorry, to do for this week? We have Strength reversed. Okay. What do we need as a collective to release? We have the Page of Cups reverse. And then we have what to contemplate. We have the Emperor. Okay. I will also probably pull a oracle card from the Seasons of the Witch Letha oracle, just to kind of see how we can end everything on a more like overall collective note, if that makes sense. So the very first card I pulled is going to be the Page of Swords, and this is going to be what we need to know. Now, I know for the like pick a pile readings that I did, I think the Page of Swords came up a few times, if I'm not mistaken, in different piles. So I think a lot of us are wanting to focus a little bit more on the kind of essence of maybe being a little bit more honest, being a little bit more empowered to kind of go out there, try something new. When I think of the pages, I think that it's very much this sort of energy of like taking a risk in the sense of getting out there into a new adventure, trying something new, trying something fresh. And I think that this page is very much that same kind of energy, while also being more clear in our intentions as far as like how we want to show up, what that means for us overall, and what we're going to do with this energy as it continues to kind of show up in our life. So for us to know is that maybe we'll have an opportunity present itself to us where we will feel a little bit more empowered, where we will feel like it is okay for us to speak our truth, where we will feel a sense of justice being served. Maybe not like on a huge grand scale, but maybe even just like within our own personal sense of what we have going on. Maybe we'll kind of feel a little bit more like, aha, that finally has happened. I feel like I can kind of move on. And so I think with the to know kind of energy is that maybe we have to know that what is our truth? What does it mean to us to be empowered in our opportunities that we take advantage of, and how we're showing up in the world? When I think of the pages, there is this kind of childlike wonder. It's immaturity, but it's more like naive. It's not so much of a lack of maturity. It's more of like an inexperienced maturity, if that makes sense. So there is this sense of like, we don't really know until we get out there and try new things. So I think for us to know is that maybe we're going to be presented with an opportunity to try something new that maybe makes us question if it's the right step for us. But there's nothing wrong with this sort of energy of trying to get out there and challenge what we've always known and what makes us comfortable. So moving on to card number 2, this is what we need to do. Now this is Strength reversed. So I feel like Strength is typically a card where we talk about like, you know, how powerful we are, connecting to that kind of energy within ourselves. And I think with this, with it being introspective or kind of pointing more towards ourselves, is that maybe we have to stop over relying on our strength and feeling like that is all that we are and all that we have. I think for many of us, especially with this, like what we need to do is that maybe we need to not feel like we have to carry it all by ourselves. And maybe we've been overly relying on ourselves as individuals versus looking at ourselves as a collective, kind of getting together and finding community, finding connection, finding support in other ways. And when we think of the imagery here, it is usually a woman that has like the jaws of the beast kind of opened up, but she doesn't look alarmed. She doesn't look afraid. And I think with this is that maybe for so long we have felt like we've had to be powerful and strong and self-reliant and only count on ourselves, that maybe what we need to do is stop overly relying on ourselves. Hyper independence is not always beneficial for us that are trying to build community and connection. And so maybe this is almost saying like, it's time for you to not feel like you have to constantly put on a brave face and convince everyone else of how powerful you are and what you're capable of doing. By asking for help or by opening yourself up to the possibilities that maybe you don't always know everything or that you don't always have all of the resources available within yourself in order to overcome any sort of obstacle or challenge, it doesn't mean that you lack those things. It's more of community-based resources, community-based work. Community in and of itself is maybe what we're having to learn how to open ourselves back up to. And I think with this being the to-do, it's that it's saying, okay, that's enough. You've been trying to do everything on your own. How can you open yourself up to the possibilities of being supported in new ways, of really understanding that as much as some of us have kind of felt like we can only rely on ourselves, that isn't always how we should be. And it isn't always the most beneficial thing for us. So I think with Strength Reverse, it is kind of a call and a reminder that we don't have to go through life in and of ourselves, like within ourselves and without any sort of external supports to kind of help us through. Now, what we need to release is the Page of Cups reversed, another page. So I think that this page is more romantic, idealistic. There's intuitive kind of senses that come with it. There's this, again, that inexperience in certain aspects. And maybe with this being reversed and it's saying this is what we need to release, is that maybe we have for too long kind of forgotten how much we do know. Maybe we feel like it's not okay for us to share our experiences or to share our intuition or to allow our intuition to be what leads us. And so I think that this is almost saying is maybe you need to stop keeping yourself to yourself so much and feeling like it's not okay for you to show up authentically as you are and where you are at. Some of us, we kind of undermine our experience, we undermine our expectations, we, kind of minimize who we are to fit into certain spaces and places. And I think with this card kind of being here in the to release is that maybe it's kind of saying you need to be yourself so that you can attract the sort of connections and relationships and situations that you're looking for. It's hard for you to attract what it is that you truly are looking for and needing if you are not showing up as that. And I think for this being what we need to release this week is that it's okay for us to have our feelings. It is perfectly normal for us to feel the full spectrum of human emotions. And this page is not afraid of that. This page is not afraid to say, I may not know what it'll be like, but I can kind of be excited about how it's going to be. And I think a lot of us have been kind of feeling the sense of, it's not okay for us to be excited about the things that are happening in our lives. Maybe we feel like there is a lot of pushback whenever we want to really show up as authentically as ourselves. And I think that this is kind of saying like, we got to release that. We got to just be like, okay with saying, this is what it is. This is how I'm feeling. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's so many things going on in the world. And I think for a lot of us, it's like we feel maybe responsible for how we're showing up and what we're sharing within ourselves. And so it makes it challenging whenever we have good things happening in our lives to want to share that with others, because we may feel like, oh, other people are going to kind of come in and say, oh, I don't like that you did that because I don't have that. So what does that mean for me? And again, there's that sense of that individual, that hyper individualism that kind of has removed this sense of connection and community and seeing the good and finding the good and connecting to the good. So I think what we need to release is the sense of I need to hold everything back and not share what I have going on because I'm not sure how it'll be received. And that is a big thing that tends to happen with the Page of Cups, is that it almost comes off as like overly zealous if we haven't been kind of sharing that kind of inner world within ourselves. And it can come off as like being a little bit over idealistic in some ways, but the right people will find you. The right people will see where your heart is and what it is that you're trying to share. And by sharing our vulnerabilities, by sharing the things that have or haven't worked, it allows other people to see that they're not alone in their experiences. And so we have to kind of start showing up in that kind of energy. So moving on to the final card for this weekly check-in spread, we have what we need to contemplate. So here we have the Emperor. Now this is that divine, masculine, dominating, analytical, logical sort of energy, but it's also very driven. It's also very passionate. It's also very much about creating that foundation, that stability that maybe we haven't been feeling. And so I feel like we've been kind of going through Cancer season with all of these different things happening with Saturn and Neptune stationing retrograde. We have a lot of this kind of like push and pull between our emotions and things coming up and feeling kind of like stuck and having so many boundaries and restrictions. And then also kind of this sense of like escapism that is kind of tuning into the collective of just like, oh, I don't really want to deal with this. Like, why is it so hard? And just feeling very exhausted by it all. And I think the Emperor is kind of saying, okay, what is our foundation? What is our structure? What does that look like? And I feel like it's very much this kind of Saturn stationing retrograde energy of being very clear on what is it that we're working towards? What is it that we need? What is it that, makes us feel stable in certain ways? What makes us feel rooted and grounded and logical in our lives? And when I think of the Emperor, I know that he can come off as very domineering, dominating, aggressive in certain ways, but I feel like it's more of like that kind of energy that says, okay, enough is enough. What do we really need? What do we really need to focus on? And I think for us, like what we need to contemplate is, what are we planning? What are we doing? Where is our energy really going? What is our focus? And what is our foundation that we've been laying for ourselves? And what does that mean for what it is that we want to invest a lot of our energy into moving forward? So I think the biggest thing with the Emperor is that it's really saying, yes, you need to kind of move back into that divine masculine kind of energy of being much more intentional with what it is that you are putting your energy into and what it is that you're trying to focus on. So that is our weekly check-in. Let's try to pull an oracle card to see what we have as just an overall kind of guidance from the Seasons of the Witch Letha Oracle. So here we have the Sun Wheel. So it says, may you catch your breath. Make sure to catch your breath. You are in for an unexpected journey. So I think that this is maybe saying, hey, like life keeps going, life keeps moving. We can't really say what will or won't happen. We can't really say how we will react to the things that happen, around us and the circumstances as they shift and change. But we have to be very connected to ourselves and what it is that we have within ourselves. And when I think of a sun wheel, I think of I'm thinking of a sundial, where it's like this kind of energy of connecting a little bit more to like where the sun is in the sky. So I think that's what I'm kind of thinking of at the current moment. But I think the sun wheel is almost saying like things are constantly shifting, things are constantly changing. So we need to be a little bit more receptive to this energy. So I'm going to just kind of look at some of the keywords in the guidebook because, again, I haven't really used this deck. This is movement, adventure, and taking action. So I think that this is very much like the Strength card reversed, in the sense of it's almost saying, hey, you don't have to overly rely on yourself to create what it is that you need. Like the Emperor's kind of doing what he can with what is given to him. And I think the Sun Wheel card is kind of saying, hey, things are about to speed up. Things are about to start shifting. Things are about to move. Maybe there's things that you've been kind of planting seeds for, that you've been kind of waiting for them to come to harvest, to fruition. And now this card is kind of saying there's going to be something changing, and you're going to start noticing that change. So be prepared for what that means for you and your sense of direction. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope that this weekly check-in reading helps you, helps bring you a little bit of clarity, a little bit of guidance, as well as things to kind of focus on as the week progresses. I really appreciate you being here with me. Please take care, stay safe, and as always, make good choices. Bye.